Part 3. Even after returning home, Finn Taylor remained in a stupor. Although vomiting had already been induced at the hospital, the doctor had told them that it was normal for him to remain drunk for a day or two since the alcohol had already entered his bloodstream. Groping his way around, he found his way up to Yvette Larson's room on the second floor. Yvette Larson had wanted to prevent him from doing so, but her strength was no match for his. Very quickly, Finn Taylor arrived at his wife's room. He crumpled down on the bed and wouldn't budge no matter how much Yvette Larson tried to tug at him. Yvette Larson wanted to flare up at him but couldn't say a thing. After all, he had only gotten into this state because of her. In the end, she chose not to leave and slept on the sofa that night because she was afraid that something would happen to him. The next day, Finn Taylor awoke to see that his wife was still deep in her sleep. As such, he covered her with a blanket. But Yvette Larson was awoken by that. Yvette Larson's first thought upon waking up was wondering why her husband was in her room. With that came a brutal kick toward him. However, Finn Taylor was easily able to dodge it. Because of this commotion, Yvette Larson was finally completely awake. She finally remembered why he was here. Are you fine? I'm alright, I'm still feeling a little dizzy. Oh. Linda James and Frances Larson happened to spot the couple walking out of the bedroom. Linda James rushed up to Finn Taylor as though she was crazy. Without saying a word, she slapped him right in the face. Why are you coming out from that room? Yvette Larson, have you hurt your brain? Don't tell me that you too. Yvette Larson rolled her eyes. Of course not, I slept on the bed, and he slept on the sofa. She was afraid that Linda James would throw a tantrum if she were to find out that Finn Taylor had gotten the bed instead, so she had flipped the situation around. That's not allowed either. Don't let that happen again. Finn Taylor, you'd better know your place. You're just a son-in-law who married into our family. We're already being very kind by feeding you when you can't even compare to a dog. Do you think you'd still be here if this marriage hadn't been set up by the old master? I'm punishing you now. Hurry up and clean the whole house. If I spot any dust later on, you won't get your meal. Finn Taylor acted as though he was frightened and answered meekly before scuttling off. Seeing Finn Taylor's pitiful look and thinking once again about how he had downed the whole bottle of whiskey for her during the contract discussion, Yvette Larson tried to speak up for him. Mom, treat Finn Taylor nicely in the future. No matter what, he's still my husband. If you say that he can't even compare to a dog, what would that make me? Linda James's suspicions arose as she saw Yvette Larson speaking up for Finn Taylor. But before she could say anything, Frances Larson stopped her. All right, stop it. Look at what has become of our family because of all these quarrels all day long. Yvette Larson ignored Linda James and went to look for Finn Taylor. You've done a great job this time. Do you want me to tell Mom about it? Or I can help you get something from Grandpa? Finn Taylor shook his head. Don't say anything about it to anyone else. Just take it as though you were the one who managed to seal the deal. He then smiled bitterly inwardly. At Peregrine Hall, his mother wanted him to be a puppet while she held the true power in her own hands. Although his younger brother was missing, he still held power in Peregrine Hall and wanted to kill him. That was why it was easier for him to survive simply by acting as a foolish and pitiful good-for-nothing son-in-law. When Finn Taylor finished his household chores, the couple had a quick breakfast before Yvette Larson brought her husband to the office. Even she herself didn't know why she was bringing him along, but she simply thought that she would feel more secure with him by her side. The Larson Corporation's conference room. Quince Larson slammed the table and laughed heartily. Let me tell you something. You guys had better not laugh to death. Guess how Yvette Larson went to look for the Sullivan family yesterday? She brought that good-for-nothing Finn Taylor there. Ha 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 ha, what a joke. Did she simply give up because she knew that it was an impossible task? Everyone in the conference room burst out in laughter upon hearing the name, Finn Taylor. What are you guys laughing about? Just then, a stern voice sounded out in the conference room. Then, someone walked in. Upon seeing the new arrival, everyone held their breaths and was at a loss for words. This was because the man who had just walked in was the head of the Larson family, Joseph Larson. What's going on, Quince? Grandpa, Yvette Larson didn't take our collaboration with the Sullivan family to heart. Yesterday, she brought that piece of trash Finn Taylor along with her to the Sullivan family's villa to embarrass our family. Grandpa, I think she's purposely trying to ruin this matter for us. Grandpa, you must cut Yvette Larson's family out of our family. They're the jinx of our family. Their family is the reason the Larson family has become a joke in San Francisco. When Joseph Larson understood the situation, he slammed the table in a rage. Grandpa, we're here. At that very moment, Yvette Larson walked into the conference room with Finn Taylor. Everyone's faces were filled with disdain when they saw Finn Taylor walking behind Yvette Larson. Yvette Larson, who allowed you to bring that piece of trash to the office? He'll jinx our whole company. Quince Larson broke out into a rant and scolded Yvette Larson. Yvette Larson flew into a rage. Quince Larson, who are you to control whom I bring to the office? Yes, I'm in no place to do that. After all, you'll soon be kicked out of the Larson family. Then, I'll be in no place to control you. Yvette Larson ignored him and walked up to her grandpa, Joseph Larson. Yvette Larson, didn't you visit the Sullivan family yesterday? How did it go? I'm waiting to serve you a cup of tea and address you as my elder sister. Yvette Larson rolled her eyes at Quince Larson. Finn Taylor, bring it over. Finn Taylor nodded and handed a bag over to his wife. As he walked over, everyone moved aside to avoid him. It wasn't that they were afraid of him but that they despised him so much that they thought it shameful to get close to him. There you go. Yvette Larson took the stack of papers over and slammed it onto the table. Here's the contract agreement between the Larson family and the Sullivan family. It's all written clearly in black and white. Quince Larson, take a close look at it. The heading clearly stated, Contract. At the bottom was the clear signatory of Xander Corporation. Quince Larson was dumbfounded and was at a loss for words. That's impossible. Yvette Larson, this must be a fake. Don't tell me that you didn't even visit Xander Corporation. Yvette Larson nodded. You're right, it's true that I didn't visit Xander Corporation. Quince Larson had initially been scared stiff-perked up upon hearing these words. Quince Larson had been in deep despair but regained his excitement upon hearing Yvette Larson's words. He slammed the table. You're good, you didn't even go to Xander Corporation, so how can you say that you signed a contract with the Sullivan family? Don't tell me that you're so scared of being punished that you got a fake contract to cheat Grandpa. Quince Larson's words seemed to make everyone come to a sudden realization. It was no wonder Yvette even managed to sign a contract when we couldn't even enter Xander Corporation. It seems like she is indeed cheating Grandpa. In an instant, everyone was filled with disdain. However, Yvette Larson couldn't be bothered to explain herself. She was sure that her grandpa would be able to determine whether the contract was fake. Grandpa, how are you going to deal with Yvette Larson now that she's cheated you with a fake contract? Joseph Larson analyzed the contract closely. Then, he retrieved his glasses from his pocket and took an even closer look at it. In the end, he slammed his fist on the table just as Quince Larson finished his sentence. Shut up, you can't even get the simplest things done right. Grandpa, she's clearly cheating you with a fake contract. Why are you getting angry at me? I've checked the contract, it's real. Joseph Larson removed his glasses and looked at his granddaughter in awe. The atmosphere and air in the conference room seemed to have frozen at that moment. Are you sure? That's impossible. She herself said that she didn't visit Xander Corporation. Only then did Yvette Larson explain herself lazily. It's true that I didn't visit Xander Corporation. I went to Pacific Heights instead and found the Sullivan family head, Hunter Sullivan. He was the one who signed the contract with me. Joseph Larson nodded. That's correct. I've seen Hunter Sullivan's handwriting before, and this is indeed his handwriting. Quince Larson, since this contract is real, don't you think it's time for you to fulfill your promise? Previously, Quince Larson and Yvette Larson had made a bet with each other. If Yvette Larson failed to sign the contract, she would have to give up her inheritance in the Larson family. On the other hand, if Yvette Larson succeeded in signing the contract, Quince Larson would have to yield to her and address her as his elder sister. At that moment, all eyes were fixated on Quince Larson. Everyone wondered what he would do. To be honest, Quince Larson was the most outstanding grandchild in the Larson family's third generation and the one most likely to inherit the position of family leader. If he were to agree to the bet, he would be demoting himself. Then, his grandpa might even have his own reservations about handing the position over to him when the time came. It was obvious that Quince Larson had considered this as well. He put up a wide smile. Yvette Larson, I was just joking about that bet. Did you really think it was real? Yvette Larson sneered inwardly. Quince Larson is sly and shameless indeed. If I hadn't succeeded, would he still insist that it was nothing more than a joke? Now that he's at a disadvantage, the bet has become a mere joke. Finn Taylor, why don't you tell us? Do you think I meant it as a joke? Quince Larson stared down at Finn Taylor, his gaze filled with threat. In his eyes, he had Finn Taylor at his beck and call. Since he had already spoken up, it was only right for Finn Taylor to follow his instructions. If even your husband says that it was a joke, what right do you have to force me into going through with that promise, Yvette Larson? A man doesn't go back on his words. Finn Taylor didn't say much, but these words were enough to render everyone in the conference room speechless. Then, they thought of something. Even the Emperor can't go back on his words. A clan leader couldn't afford to joke around. Quince Larson either respected Yvette Larson as his elder sister, or he backed out of the fight for the position of family leader. At the thought of this, Quince Larson itched with hatred. He glared at Finn Taylor. "You piece of trash, just wait and see how I'm going to deal with you." With that, he left. After a while, he returned with a cup of tea and bowed down respectfully. "Please accept this cup of tea." The moment that Yvette Larson reached out for the cup of tea, tears fell from the corners of her eyes. "How many years has it been? Our family has always been bullied by Quince Larson, but today, we can finally hold our heads up high." Yvette Larson didn't drink the cup of tea and handed it to her husband instead. "Drink it." "Oh." Finn Taylor nodded and gulped the tea down at once, even swallowing the tea leaves. Seeing this, everyone present couldn't help but think of him as a fool. Yvette Larson hadn't drunk her tea but had given it to her useless husband instead. In Quince Larson's view, this was utter humiliation. He flicked his sleeves and left. In reality, Yvette Larson had done so because she knew that she had only gotten this far all thanks to her husband. She couldn't afford to shortchange him. "Grandpa, I've made an appointment with Mr. Sullivan. He said that we should send some of our employees over to Xander Corporation tomorrow to discuss the details of the collaboration. I'll go get things ready." The old master, Joseph Larson, was overwhelmed with emotion. That's the Sullivan family of New York. They are one of the 5 most important families in the whole country. The old master had never dreamed of such a day when the Larson family would be able to work with the Sullivan family, and it was all thanks to his granddaughter. The more he looked at Yvette Larson now, the more he liked her. In fact, he was even thinking of letting her take over the reins of the company. "Yvette, you have full control over everyone in the company. You can fire anyone if they don't listen to you." The old master's words held weight. This meant that he had given Yvette Larson great authority. "Grandpa, what if they're from the Larson family? Just do it. You can think of the consequences later. Just fire them." That had been a casual question since she was afraid that the Larson family would stir up trouble for her. She hadn't expected her grandpa to give her such a reply. Quince Larson hadn't actually left and had been standing outside the conference room. As such, he had heard everything his grandpa, Joseph Larson, had just said. He rushed into the conference room and yelled out, "Grandpa! Shut up!" Before Quince Larson could even say a thing, Joseph Larson put a stop to it. Yvette Larson was pleased and walked away as though she had just won a battle. Finn Taylor followed closely behind. When he walked past Quince Larson, he threatened, "You piece of trash. You'd better not give me any chance to kill you. I'll be sure to do it." He then strode off with no care to what he had said. Only after everyone had left did Quince Larson drop to the ground and kneel before Joseph Larson. "Grandpa, you're making a mistake. It's true that Yvette Larson is the one who managed to seal the deal, but we need capable people for this project. No matter what, the Sullivan family is looking to work with us and not Yvette Larson. Actually, someone else can take over this project too. Grandpa, I know that you treat everyone in the family fairly and want to give Yvette Larson a chance as well. But did you see how she acted just now? She didn't even want to drink my cup of tea and handed it to her husband instead. If she takes over the company, I'm sure she'll favor outsiders. Grandpa, I'm a Larson, and my child will be a Larson. As for Yvette Larson's child, how are we to know if they will be a Larson or a Taylor?" Every word that Quince Larson spoke was a piercing attack. Every word and sentence was meant to show his grandpa one thing, that handing the company over to Yvette Larson would cause the Larson Corporation to become the Taylor Corporation in no time. Then, all of the Larson family members would be fired from the company by Yvette Larson because of his orders. Joseph Larson considered the situation carefully and was alarmed. He glanced at his grandson. "There are no outstanding talents amongst the Larson family's second generation. That is why I had said that I would simply pass over the second generation and choose my successor from the third generation. From the way things are, Quince Larson is the most brilliant one in his generation. Grandpa, I have no intention of fighting for power or profit. I'm doing everything for the sake of the Larson family." Quince Larson was just shy of raising up his hand to swear to God about it. However, Joseph Larson merely sneered. "You don't have to put on an act in front of me. It's a pity that the Larson family's second generation is so incompetent and that you're the only one with potential in the third generation. You'll take the lead in the discussion with Xander Corporation tomorrow." Quince Larson was excited by his grandpa's promise. Ellipsis. Upon returning home, Yvette Larson and Finn Taylor told their parents about what had happened in the office. The couple was overwhelmed with emotions at the news. "Yvette, you've done our family proud." Finn Taylor was standing by the side, felt joy from the bottom of his heart too. However, Linda James glared at Finn Taylor. "Why are you smiling? It's entirely my daughter's credit that she was able to score this collaboration. If not for you dragging her down all this time, she would already have become the CEO of the company. I haven't even settled the score for what happened yesterday morning." Yvette Larson was displeased. She knew in her heart that it hadn't been her efforts that had landed her the contract. If not for her husband, she never would have been able to get into Pacific Heights. Besides, it was only because Finn Taylor had risked his life by downing that bottle of whiskey that they had managed to sign the contract in the end. No matter how Finn Taylor felt about her mom scolding him, it felt to her that she was kicking him to the curb now that he had outlived his usefulness. "Mom, stop it, it's a happy occasion today. Don't mention all those unhappy things in the past." Because Linda James didn't want to ruin the joyful atmosphere, she eventually chose to hold her tongue. Just then, Yvette Larson's phone rang. The caller ID displayed the name, Grandpa. For some unknown reason, Yvette Larson felt her heartstrings tighten in anxiety. "Grandpa, it's me." "Huh, why, I was the one who scored the deal." "No, I won't allow it." "What does he have to do with it? He won't be able to go if I don't bring him along." "What rights does he have? It's Quince Larson, isn't it?" Click. Before she could finish her sentence, the call ended. Everyone in the family felt that something was amiss. Nobody dared to utter a word, and they simply stared at Yvette Larson silently. Yvette Larson's joyful expression gradually fell. She curled up into a squat on the ground, sobbing. "Yvette, what's wrong?" Linda James eventually managed to get the answer from her. "Grandpa's biased. I was the one who got the contract signed, but he insists on letting Quince Larson be the person in charge of the project and the one negotiating the deal with Xander Corporation." Linda James and Frances Larson were taken aback. Why did Grandpa suddenly change the person in charge? No sooner had Linda James finished her question than Yvette Larson's phone rang again. This time, it was Quince Larson. Yvette Larson was just about to reject the call before her mother snatched it away to answer it. "How's it going, Yvette Larson? You should have received the news by now. It's your fault for being stupid enough for bringing that piece of trash, Finn Taylor, along for your discussion. You humiliated the Larson family. How could Grandpa hand such an important project to you? If the Sullivan family finds out that the guy they saw yesterday is your good-for-nothing husband, our collaboration will go down the drain. Then, you'll become a criminal in the Larson family's eyes. Remember that our Larson family isn't your Larson family. You're just a woman. Even though your husband married into our family, it's no different from you leaving the Larson family. Ha ha ha, I have to thank you for scoring the deal. Now, I have another huge project to take credit for in the company." Quince Larson boasted incessantly about himself. Unable to take it any longer, Linda James hung up the call. Then, she turned her deadly gaze to Finn Taylor. "It's all because of you that Grandpa's not allowing Yvette to work on this collaboration. It's all because of you that our family has been utterly humiliated. Not only are we unable to lift up heads up high in the Larson family, but we've even become second-class citizens in San Francisco. What crime did our family commit? Why did you have to join our family?" As Linda James said so, she grabbed a broom and smacked Finn Taylor. Finn Taylor was traumatized and chose to escape from the house. Yvette Larson was still dejected and was in no mood to care about that. Finn Taylor decided to leave the Larson family's house. A certain Starbucks in San Francisco. In front of Finn Taylor sat the four guardians: Logan Yates, Hunter Sullivan, Alexander Scott, and Zachary Kennedy. "Master Peregrine, do you have a task for us?" Finn Taylor took out a ring and put it on his finger. The ring was carved into the shape of a peregrine, and it was the symbol of Master Peregrine. "The fight within Peregrine Hall hasn't ended. My younger brother is missing, not dead. You four guardians have two roads to choose from. Firstly, you can choose to follow me with all your hearts. Secondly, you can choose to go against me. Then, you either kill me or wait for me to kill you." The four guardians dared not go against him and swore their allegiance to Finn Taylor. Finn Taylor sneered. "All these years, if I believed everything the world presented to me, I'd have died a long time ago. I won't believe a single word you guys say. What I want to do today is to introduce you to someone." Finn Taylor clapped his hands. Then, an elder sauntered toward him. When he reached Finn Taylor, he stopped to bow before him. The four guardians looked over with squinted eyes, trying their best to remember whom this person was. Very quickly, Alexander Scott seemed to have thought of something. Although the rest were slightly slower, they eventually remembered it too. Zane Yeller. That man nodded. Not bad. I'm the world's top assassin, Zane Yeller. However, I have another identity, Master Peregrine's dog. With a thud, Zane Yeller fell before Finn Taylor into a kneel, expressing his attitude and identity before the four guardians. At the sight of this, the heartbeats of the four guardians rapidly increased to above 200 beats per minute. They felt as though they were about to combust. Zane Yeller was a legendary recluse, but anyone he had his eyes on never lived long. Who would have expected that such a legend was a dog owned by Master Peregrine? Master Peregrine Finn Taylor was even more powerful than they had ever imagined. The year I turned 6, I was chased out by my mother to live with the servants. From then on, I've been trying to build my own power. The world's top assassin, Zane Yeller, is just the tip of the iceberg. Finn Taylor narrated the matter indifferently. It was as though he was talking about a trivial matter. On the other hand, chills ran down the four guardians' spines. The world's top assassin, Zane Yeller, is just the tip of the iceberg. He has been building up his own power since the age of 6. Moreover, he has tolerated everything all these years to let the 5 families in Peregrine Hall think that he was no better than a useless matrilocal son-in-law. How can one question his endurance and patience? He had been only 6. The second young master is extraordinarily childish even now, let alone at 6 years old. There is no comparing him and second young master. If they were to follow the second young master, what awaited them was certain death. The four guardians could no longer hold back the fear in their hearts and quickly knelt down before Finn Taylor. Pukwaji at your service, young master. Wampus at your service, young master. Thunderbird at your service, young master. Horned serpent at your service, young master. The four guardians' hearts now belonged to Finn Taylor, not Peregrine Hall, and they were even addressing Finn Taylor differently now. Oh, Finn Taylor replied indifferently before popping a peeled grape into his mouth. Get up, all of you. When they all stood up, he looked at Alexander Scott. Alexander Scott, how's your sister doing? 13 years ago, Alexander Scott's sister Phoebe Scott had been attacked, causing her to fall off the horse she had been riding. Although she had survived, she became paralyzed. Thank you for your concern, young master. My sister's condition has improved, and she's able to take a few steps now thanks to auxiliary equipment. Finn Taylor peeled another grape and said nonchalantly, Zane Yeller, get Jeremy Smith to take a look at her. Jeremy Smith was the most renowned doctor in the entire world. Wide-eyed, the four guardians stared at Finn Taylor in disbelief. Don't tell me that the tip of the iceberg you mentioned includes the best doctor in the world, Jeremy Smith. Finn Taylor was impassive about the amazement the other 4 people expressed. It was as though this was to be expected. Thank you, young master. Thank you, young master. Alexander Scott fell to the ground once again, kowtowing non-stop until his forehead started bleeding. Now, their relationship had improved yet again. Previously, they had been forced to follow the young master to save their own lives in the fight between the young master and the second young master. But now, Finn Taylor was enticing them with goodies. He was trying to make them understand that they stood to gain a whole lot if they followed him. The four guardians were no fools and naturally understood the advantages and disadvantages of doing so. Ellipsis. By dawn the next morning, Quince Larson was already waiting at the lobby of the office. The 5 to 6 people standing behind him were high-level executives from the company, and they were all part of the Larson family. However, Yvette Larson was not amongst them. Quince Larson glanced at his watch and tapped his feet impatiently. Have you tried calling her? Is Yvette Larson coming? I've already called her. She said she's feeling unwell and needs a day off. Quince Larson sneered. All right, are you trying to be petty and stubborn? I won't bring you along then. I'll go to Xander Corporation myself and conduct the negotiation talks myself. Yvette Larson, you can wait to be fired. Ellipsis. At Yvette Larson's house, Yvette Larson picked up her bag and flung it at her spouse, who caught it with ease. Finn Taylor, don't you know that Quince Larson will get the chance to head the project if I don't turn up at the office today? I'll be fired from the company then, and our whole family will be chased out of the Larson family. Yvette Larson was fuming. It was true that she had been angry upon receiving the news last night, but that had been her grandpa's order. She had no other choice. Finn Taylor stood at the door, refusing to let her go to the office no matter what she said. Believe me, as long as you listen to me, I can assure you that our family will have our day in the Larson family. His gaze was clear, and he spoke with confidence. Yvette Larson had no idea where her husband's confidence came from, yet she chose to believe him nonetheless. All right, I'll choose to believe you for the last time. If it doesn't go as you said, just wait and see how I'll deal with you. Ellipsis. Quince Larson arrived at Xander Corporation with his men. Just as they walked toward the entrance, the security officer seemed to have received some instructions through his earpiece. Then, he immediately stopped Quince Larson and his people in their tracks. Who are you? Hello, we're from the Larson family of San Francisco. We're representing the Larson Corporation to hold a discussion with your family. With that, Quince Larson took out a contract. The security officer glanced at it before asking, "Who's Yvette Larson?" Quince Larson and the rest smiled awkwardly. "About that, brother, none of us are Yvette Larson, but she's part of the Larson family and the Larson Corporation as well. She simply signed the contract on behalf of our company." Although he was a mere security officer, he was a security officer of Xander Corporation. The ones supporting him were the Sullivan family of New York. There was no way Quince Larson would let his guard down. As such, he respectfully addressed the security officer as "brother." "I'm so sorry. The name on this contract is Yvette Larson, and I'm only allowed to let Yvette Larson in." The Larson family members turned to each other in confusion. Then, the daughter of the Larson family's third branch, Eleanor Larson, stepped out. She walked up and said, "I'm Yvette Larson. Please let me see your identity card." Eleanor Larson had intended on taking Yvette Larson's place, but she hadn't expected the security officer to check her identity card. She backed down a little embarrassedly. The Larson family stood round to discuss their way out. Someone suggested bribing the security officer, and one suggested barging in, while another suggested calling Hunter Sullivan. In the end, all their suggestions were rejected. None of them were suitable. In the end, they were stuck with the inevitable truth: without Yvette Larson, they wouldn't even be able to enter Xander Corporation, much less cooperate with them. They returned to Larson Corporation dejectedly. The old master Joseph Larson had been waiting by the entrance for their victorious return. The moment they got out of the car, party poppers were popped. "How did your negotiations go?" Joseph Larson looked at Quince Larson expectantly. Quince Larson was at a loss for words, not knowing how to explain the situation to Joseph Larson. He stuttered for a long time, and Joseph Larson could tell that something was amiss. "Follow me to the conference room." In the conference room, Quince Larson spilled the truth of the matter. Slap. Joseph Larson landed a slap on his grandson's face. "Good, very good. I must have been out of my mind. How could I have listened to you to take Yvette Larson off the project and to let you go? This is great. Quince Larson, weren't you so full of yourself? Well, let me tell you. If you don't manage to seal the deal by today, your family can scram from the Larson family. Wait for next part.